Looks like you're in our production facility. If I'm not
I
mistaken.
am. Yeah, our brand new production facility.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do for Anaba?
Sure. So my main goal is to make sure that the magic that happens in the vineyards gets all the way to the bottle. So basically, everything that is good about our grapes and our wines happens in the vineyards, and it's our responsibility to make sure nothing goes wrong between the bin to the bottle, as I like to say. So
that's a humble way of putting it, but I do agree. Basically, you're saying don't screw it up.
Right. Yep, exactly.
Much easier said than done, especially with a delicate variety like Pinot Noir, which we'll touch on a little bit more as well. Pardon me, I'm actually opening up a bottle of our 2017 Roberts Road, and the next club shipment you'll be tasting it soon as well. I promise you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it's all good. He's only like 50 feet away from me, so.
Yeah, we're close. We're more than 6 feet, but less than 100. So nice and safe. So the first thing that, first of all, Ian, just so people know, he's more than his title. He is the glue that holds the cellar together. He deals with my father and I, no easy task. He deals with the interns during harvest, no easy task. He deals with the winemakers, sorry guys, no easy task. And he brings it all together. So he's the glue, and we couldn't do it without him. So as far as technical details go, he knows as much as you can know. So I might have to stop him at some point if he gets a little too deep in the weeds.
Yeah, feel free to stop me. I may get a little into the weeds here. So
yeah, or into the vines, if you will.
There you go, into the vines.
So first off, I think what we'll start with is the production facility itself. We built this production facility specifically with our wines in mind, showing off terroir, and I'd like you to talk about what is kind of not unique, but somewhat unique about the facility itself.
Sure. So because we do so many different varieties here, we wanted to make a facility that, excuse the cliche term, is modular. Right now you can see this is our main fermentation room, and we have about probably 200 barrels laid out for various blending, tasting purposes. And this room looks very different during harvest. So we set up just sort of a mock version of what the sorting line would look like during the whole process. And we can go through that in a little bit. But the whole idea...
So what you're telling me is that the rooms change purpose over the year.
Yeah, we have 3 different rooms. Sorry. We have one main fermentation room. We have a middle fermentation room for all of our smaller 2-ton tanks. That's the small one right there that you see. And then we have a giant barrel room that way that houses all of our barrels for our over vintage wines. So
anyway, we can get maybe just a swivel peek, or are we gonna?
Sure.
It's a large
walk
facility,
over there
folks,
while we're talking. So it's quite a large facility. Our old facility was about the size of the room I'm walking through right now, and we have been fortunate enough to build a facility to handle the wines that we make here, and any wine you could throw at us, really. There's some cases ready to get bottled. So I'm about to walk into the barrel room right now, and this room is kept at a constant 56 degrees. And we have about 200 kegs for topping wine. They're hermetically sealed. So just to give you an example of what we do to make sure that that wine stays pure during the whole process.
Well, what's topping wine? Tell us about that.
So topping wine, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the term the angel's share, but about a couple times every month, we will come through and top up every barrel which will lose about a half an inch of wine, which you could measure in many ways. But
evaporation.
Yes. So the whole point of a barrel is slow micro oxidation. So those staves will slowly leach out or in oxygen, and the wine will evaporate over time. So our job is to keep out oxygen for the most part and top that back up with wine twice every month.
You're getting an idea here of how meticulous this whole process is, and we'll get to why Pinot is even more delicate than most. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, as Ian mentioned, all the magic happens during the farming, and it happens naturally with the weather and the soil and the location. The real job at the winery is to retain that magic, especially with our wines. We don't want to create a specific flavor profile. We want to let the grapes or the fruit express itself and express where it comes from. So we try the best that we can to keep it as real and as authentic to its terroir, if you will, or its region, as we can. So with that said, one thing that we do, again, not unique, but not done by everyone, is we will actually hand sort our fruit to make sure that only the highest quality fruit that we've picked ends up going into the wine. So we have people and equipment to help us do that. So Ian, if you want to talk a little bit about the machinery as well as the process, there was a picture on Instagram today, which I'm sure you saw.
Sure. So I'm going to pass the iPad on over to Jesse, who's been a cellar worker with us for the past 3 years. So, and I'm going to do some goofy stuff to show you exactly kind of how we do this whole process, even though it's not harvest. I think I can switch the camera here. There we go. Yeah. So to start, we got the shaker table. All the grapes come in a picking bin like this over here. Here's some grapes in a picking bin. Looks like that.
Worry, those aren't wine grapes. Don't worry.
You're gonna pick those up, and that whole table's gonna shake it out, get all the raisins and stuff. And this whole table here is also gonna shake everything out. I'm gonna say, oh no, this is garbage. Throw that out, and it's gonna shake, 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 shake. Stay on the stem, stay on the stem. It's gonna go up this whole elevator and end to the destemmer up here. So we're really proud of this new destemmer. Drops in up there. Oh crap! I'm gonna have to clean that later. And then
very yeah.
Jesse, you can come over here and kind of show them what it looks like. I don't want to turn it on because it's gonna get really noisy. But this whole cage just like shakes and slowly spins as this impeller spins to kind of knock everything off. But we turn that basically down to its very minimum so that we don't break up the skins of the Pinot, which is actually one of the biggest problems with Pinot, or I should say aspects of Pinot, is that we do not want to break the skins. They have very, very thin skins. So this machine allows us to get rid of the stems and whole berries drop into the 2-ton tank that we have here. And we can ferment with 0 stems and 0 broken skins. So,
and that's crucial because the skins play a very important role in adding the flavor and the texture and whatever the final product is. You want those intact. Not everyone hand sorts. It seems like, wow, you have this machine that does it for you. The fact of the matter is, in real life, I've worked this harvest. The machine is moving fast, and you don't have time to look up. In fact, it goes by very fast. You're standing there literally. It's like playing whack-a-mole. You're just trying to pick out as many bad grapes, leaves, anything you can while you're getting covered in earwigs or little bugs. You got to just brush it off, be a trooper. It's a meticulous process, and Pinot in particular is a tough one.
And the other issue with Pinot is that it has very tight clusters, which Chardonnay kind of shares with as well. So fungus and other molds can grow inside there. So as good of a job as the picking crew can do in the vineyard, there's inevitably going to be some of those loose clusters that make it into the picking bin and eventually across the sorting table, which is why we have about 6 people on this table sorting out things like that: leaves, stems, botrytis, anything that looks weird about the grapes. And that's something special that we do that not a lot of wineries tend to do.
Like I said, we really want to protect the fruit and keep it as it was when it arrived at the winery, and that's something that's very hard to do with all fruit, but in Pinot in particular. And that's why, as a lot of you know, we make quite a number of different types of Pinot that come from different regions, and they're very distinct of one another. We have a style it's different, one for everyone. Some people like them all. I personally, it depends on how I'm feeling, but some are bigger, and that's because of, again, the soil and the weather, the climate. With the hotter it is, the more ripe the fruit gets, and the more kind of full the wine is going to be. If you're more coastal, more fog, less sunlight.
Even within every vineyard is like a microclimate. It's bizarre.
Exactly. And then, you can have a vineyard 150 meters away from another vineyard and produce a different wine with the same exact wine making process. So our winemaking process doesn't differentiate too much from Pinot to Pinot. It's really just about expressing the terroir, and that's our goal with the wines, because again, wines they come from the earth, and I don't want to use the term natural wines because that's not what we do, but in a way that is kind of the goal, is to express what is naturally occurring in the best way possible.
In my definition, it is natural wine. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to go down that road. That could be totally. Another episode down the line, or maybe not. So, unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all of the equipment. There's quite a bit more than that. But that's not to say that there won't be future episodes based on feedback during this one if people want to learn more. Yeah. But I'd like to remind everyone that, for example, this Roberts Road that I'm drinking, a real favorite last year, the first year we did it, 2016, our first Petaluma Gap wine, 17's drinking beautifully, by the way, is an example of a bit leaner, right? So you'll see Pinots that are much fuller, darker in color, will have higher alcohol. This, because of the location, the climate, it's a lean Pinot. It's Petaluma Gap, just northeast of here, northwest of here, and is getting a lot of attention now as it just became an AVA, and there are a lot of great wines coming out of there. In particular, our Roberts Road, San Giacomo Vineyards, they did a great job farming.
It's actually showing really well right now.
Yeah, and then if you compare that to, say, the Soberanis, which comes from south, Santa Lucia Highlands, it's a bit bigger. Again, it's different soils, different climate. All these things we try to express through the wine. So if you want to learn more about them, if you want to purchase them, obviously anabawines.com. Head into the wine shop. It's very easy to do. You can click on any wine, learn more about it. You can reach out to any of us individually to learn more about it. We're happy to talk you through it, talk about what you're interested in, what we can tailor to your taste or what you want to try. But they are distinct. That's one thing for sure. If you do a side by side with 4 of our Pinots, you will say these are 4 different wines, and you don't have to be a somm to know that. Anybody would be able to tell. So that's what we try to do, and that's the goal. But that I'd like to open it up to some Q&A. If anybody has any questions, I don't think I've seen any pop up yet. But does anyone have any questions about Pinot Noir, destemming, hand sorting, wind turbines, Ian, nothing?
We haven't even kind of gone into what happens once it gets into the fermentation vessel. But the reason we like to use these 2-ton fermenters here, first of all, they fit really nicely underneath our destemmer, but we can control the temperature super easy, and also punch downs and pump overs are much easier to do to get the whole cap management under control.
Well, why don't you talk about what a punch down and a pump over is?
Sure.
I'm very familiar with punch downs.
John Michael's super familiar with punch downs. Punch downs. I wish I could recreate that right now. But imagine this whole tank is full of grapes, and once the sugar starts converting into alcohol, it likes to start bubbling up. So all of the grapes start going to the top, and we don't want the grapes to stay at the top. We want them to be everywhere. So we want those skins extraction to happen. So when you punch something down, actually I can go over a tool, you literally push the cap, quote unquote, down into the wine. So that not only manages heat, but it also helps with extraction and keeps things balanced. That's kind of our whole goal here, is everything in balance. Here's a punch down, actually several punch down tools. So the bottom looks like that. Sorry, I hope I'm not making anybody sick. And you will stand on top of the tank with that in your hands and just literally punch it down.
I think I still hold the record for most punch downs in a day.
I think John Michael does hold. Yeah, he
48.
helped us out too hard.
I collapsed afterwards.
And nailed it. That was his main job.
Yeah.
And then a pump over involves something like this. This is a pump. This is a positive displacement pump, and it very delicately moves liquid from one place to another, which is very important, especially with Pinot. You don't want to beat the wine up too much. So sometimes during the ferment, the wine needs air and oxygen. So we give it a nice pump over for about 15 to 30 minutes, every 3 times a day sometimes, depending on the need of the variety and the grape.
And Pinot is needy.
Very
needy.
Yeah.
So actually, we do have a couple questions coming in. Also, a couple shout outs to the apparel and merchandise, the hat and the sweatshirt. They are both great. I agree. Turbine's a cool logo. That is a wind turbine, in case you're wondering, because we are wind and solar powered. Sustainability will be the feature next week. But
I just looked at our most recent power bill, and we were down about $15,000 than we were the month before. The solar panels are working.
We are approaching neutral. We have a few questions now, so we'll get to them. How long can you age a Pinot? Does it get better? From Fitbit. Excellent question.
Are you talking about within the barrel or within the bottle?
I think we're going to assume within the bottle.
Sure. Well, our Pinots will age for probably at least 10 years. That's the way we make them. We age them in a barrel for at least 20 months. What's that?
Some longer.
Some longer, right. And our goal is to make something, I mean, I'm sure everybody says this, drinkable now, but aged forever. We try to make sure everything's in balance as far as the pH goes and acid goes and just fruit in general. But I would wait about a year for some of our Pinots, and then it could age for 12, 15, 20 years.
They definitely get better each year, in my opinion. Not to say they're not delicious when you first get them, which is why it's hard to keep them. But, we opened up a 2008 Sonoma Coast the other day, and it was surprisingly for just a generic Sonoma Coast, it was very, very good. It actually tasted somewhat fresh. The fruit was still strong. If you make it right, with the high enough acid and it's well integrated, the right amount of oak, they can age a long time. They can age 15, 20 plus years. We have yet to see. We haven't been around that long, but we will get back to you with an answer on that.
Well, that's what's so cool about Pinot is that it changes so much every year. Like, it could be ready to drink right now and you could think it's delicious. And then, like, 5 years, you'd be like, oh, that's different. That's even more delicious. And then 15, 20 years, you'd be like, okay, that's different again. That's what I think I love so much about Pinot, is that it's just the variety of flavors every year changes so much.
It does. We just tasted a few library wines, and they were all so different. I'm going to go back to questions. Looks like we have a few more. Can you tell us about the 2017 Santa Lucia great question. This happens to be Ian's favorite wine year in, year out. Ryan Field asking about the Santa Lucia Highlands Silveranus Pinot. Another fan favorite. I know I say that a lot. I guess they're all fan favorites. But Ian, if you want to touch on, I'm sure you'd be happy to, touch on your favorite Pinot that we make.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I get crap for this all the time, but my favorite Pinot comes from Silveranus, which is not from Carneros, but there's something about the Santa Lucia Highlands and the way that this vineyard is farmed that it just makes some beautiful, fruity, red, fruit, ripe tones that, I don't know, just make my eyes roll up in the back of my head anytime I taste it.
It is good, and it's
beautifully farmed. The vineyard managers there know exactly what they're doing. And,
that's a big part of it too.
Yes, exactly. Every time, it's all about the vineyards. So
the owner of the vineyard is actually is very, very well known within the industry. Gary Pizzoni and his sons are now running it. The story is he famously brought clones over from France in his pants. Took him into the country, planted him in St. Lucia Islands from Burgundy, and so the story goes. And I believe it because the fruit is very high quality. It's one of our bigger Pinots, but again, very well integrated. I wouldn't call it like a big, lush Pinot.
Right.
It is deeper in color.
It's not over oaked or anything like that. It's just it's just got that fruit that
it's got a little more intensity right off the bat. It will age extremely well to that end. I mean, that could go 10 years easily.
And we like to keep our acid balance.
Suggest you drink it tonight. Yeah. Let's see. Looks like we've got another question. That's a tough one. We could take a stab at it. Ian, you ready for a tough one?
What is it? Sure.
Do you expect the possible air quality improvements from the global shutdown to show up in the, I can't read the rest of it, but I'm guessing she's going to say
in the taste of the wine?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that never really affected the flavor in the first part. Of course, smoke coming into your winery and over your vineyard and over your grapes are going to affect flavors, but we never harvest anything that would be affected by that and bring it into the winery. So no, yes, obviously things are better when the air quality is better. I can't say no.
I would say I might overrule you there and say, much like the entire situation globally, we actually don't know the answer, but optimistically, we'll say, it's going to be a great vintage. That will be the silver lining of this whole thing. We are hitting 5 o'clock, and that's when we kind of cut off the questions, unfortunately. But you can always join us next Friday. Bring your questions back so you can get one in there. Sorry if we didn't get to you this time. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today. I hope you got something out of this and learned something, because the format we felt was fun before, but not as interactive. At least this way, you're getting an inside look at the process and how difficult it really is to make wine of high quality, regardless of how good the fruit is starting out. It takes a lot of work to maintain that kind of magic. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to Ian. I'd like to remind you all that next Friday at 4:30, we will be talking solar power, wind power, sustainability, some major things for us in the future. And I'd also like to remind you that we have our May Wine Club shipment coming out in about 3 weeks. It will contain that Soberanus Pinot. It will contain the Roberts Road. And I believe the Sonoma Coast 17, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, you can go to the website and purchase them yourself. They're all good. I would highly recommend lining them up and tasting them side by side if you have the means, because that is the best way to really understand how different they can be. So,
if you had any more questions that you feel like you didn't get answered here, feel free to, I don't know what the Instagram term is, DM me.
DM Ian.Anaba. You can find him on the website. You can call him, text him. He's working 24/7.
Pretty much. Staying safe.
Well, yeah, that's right. This is the only time he's had his mask off, so he'll put it back on right now and hose himself.